Steve Wilks was fired. He was the defensive coordinator. He was only there for 1 year. What do you think about, do you think it was warranted? Because in my opinion, I don't think that defense was bad at all. I think the performance of the defense is one of the reasons that they were there in the Super Bowl to begin with. And then you take the fact that what the Super Bowl was, it had to go into overtime. So the defense was not, I don't think it was the reason why they lost that game per se, but maybe I'm looking at it differently. What are your thoughts about the kind of the aftermath and the fallout?
Well, I'm right there with you. 12-5 regular season, and we saw at times that defense was, there were times they looked dominant, but they looked good all through the season for the most part. Had some, hills, peaks and valleys, as most teams do. But as far as the Super Bowl, let's talk specifically. I mean, you held Patrick Mahomes to 3 points in the first half. And then you gave up one touchdown, which was after a muffed punt, and then they had 4 field goals. If you think about it, to get to overtime, you held them to 1 touchdown, 4 field goals, 19 points, and then we all saw what happened in overtime. But I don't know. It just seems like they're looking for a scapegoat of some type,
Yeah.
And this might be just one of those situations where they didn't mesh personality wise or something.
That's what it maybe seems like, because it didn't curl quite right. But it makes me think of, you ever had a car, you ever maybe rented a car, maybe there was something, maybe you had a meal. The meal was fine. There was nothing bad about the meal, so to speak, but you say, it's not my choice. I mean, it's fine. I would eat it again, but I wouldn't necessarily come in and order this particular meal. So maybe it was something about just the little the details, so to speak, that didn't line up quite right, possibly.
I like the meal analogy, and it's almost like you got a decent meal, right? But you looked around the table, and everybody else looked like they were just enjoying theirs just so much more. Their pasta had a little more sauce on it. You got the one that was dry, and your shrimp looked like they were just a little overcooked, and everybody else food just looked so succulent and everything, and when it was done, you were like, it was pretty good. But in the end, it was like everybody else was just like, "Oh my God, that's the best meal I ever had." Was that a Ritz? No, that couldn't be a Ritz. That had to be it. So
yeah.
and maybe like personality wise, like with a head coach, with some of these like assistants they have, they like them to be their buddy and stuff like that. Because they pop in the rooms and they're there all day together, and they have spent so much time together, and they want that dude that they can, talk about what's going on at home, and hey, let's grab a bite to eat, and then maybe they just didn't like. Wilks looks like a dude that's in there just to do his job,
man,
and get it done, and then I'm out.
And then I'm out. Or maybe remember the Chappelle Show skit where Obama going through the line and he was shaking everybody's hand. Do you ever see that one? And he's shaking everybody's hand. All these black dudes are giving them the soul handshake, and then he sees a white person. He shakes their hand and does let me shake your hand a little bit business wise and keep it moving. And maybe that's how Wilks is. He's what's up, bro? What's up? Yeah. How can I help you, Coach? Yeah, what can I do for you? Yeah, I'll get that right away. Yeah, for sure. We'll do that. All right, have a good one. Oh, man, so I was saying, man, we about to get to these boys or something like that. Maybe it's that way.
That could be, and I've seen the dynamic. I've been around coaches that they like their dudes, and he might have been just an outsider and didn't ever fit in. Because you got to remember, here's the other thing: in the last few years, they've lost Saleh, who was a defensive coordinator. They lost DeMeco Ryans, and those dudes seemed like they were like, really rah, and livening up the room and having fun. And then you get Wilks, who's just and like I said, when you spend enough time around each other, and it's like he's the dude. You have the coaches meetings, right? And everybody's in there, and everybody joking and everything. He comes in the room, and everybody gets quiet, and they're just like, hey, and then he gets up and leaves. And everybody jumps back to having fun and doing their thing, and in the end, it's such a long season, such a long grind. And here's the thing: you're not just around each other during the off season or during the regular season. You got to spend time with these guys during the off season too, because OTAs and things start. You're planning for next year, the draft, the combines, all kinds of stuff. And it might just one of those situations where his on field was okay, but it wasn't enough to overcome. And he's just not our type of dude around here,
Yeah.
And that's not, it's not a knock on Wilks for the most part, because I think he did a pretty good job. And it stinks. Yeah, it stinks,
but
because
it's on his
it's
resume,
almost like they're blaming. Yeah. It's almost like they're blaming him, or it looks like they're blaming him, when in reality, he did a really good job this year, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think so too. That is, you bring up, especially when you talked about, the two, because they were both within, right? Salah and D'Amico, they were within, and they were promoted from within in that way. So you have Wilks that's an outsider coming in, but that is true. They're both very, very emotional, very very animated on the sidelines, as opposed to Wilks, who's much more reserved. Yeah,
and you know how it is too. Like real quick, it's like when the other coaches are talking about Wilks, man, he's not like D'Amico.
That's true. Yeah,
I miss Robert, man.